Pret A Manger has fallen off so bad. For decades, they served handmade quality and natural, fresh food you could feel good about. It was wholesome and trustworthy. Sadly, that trust was built on a lie. Walk into one now and you'll find mass-produced food from central factories, misleading allergen information that has literally killed customers, repeated food safety violations, and marketing so deceptive that regulators have banned their ads. The sandwiches are overpriced. The fresh claims are false. The ingredients are packed with additives they swore they'd never use. And most damning of all, 2 people are dead because the company valued profit over safety. What was once a simple cafe promising honest food has become a corporate killing machine wrapped in artisanal packaging. So, what went wrong? How did Pret A Manger betray the trust of millions? And how did they get away with killing customers while still selling themselves as the ethical choice? To understand the current nightmare, we need to go back to the beginning. In 1986, 2 friends, Julian Metcalf and Sinclair Beecham, opened the first shop in London. The concept was simple but revolutionary for the time. Fresh sandwiches made on site with natural ingredients. No preservatives, no additives, just good, honest food. The name itself, French for ready to eat, signaled their philosophy. Fast food, but not fast food as you knew it. This wasn't McDonald's. This was food made by real people in real kitchens, attached to each shop. The branding was genius. Where other chains went for bright plastics and fluorescent lighting, Pret chose exposed brick, dark wood, and industrial chic. The shops felt like artisan bakeries, not corporate outlets. The staff wore aprons, not uniforms. The whole aesthetic whispered, "We care about food the way your grandmother cared about food." And it worked. By the early 2000s, Pret had become famous across British high streets. Office workers lined up every lunchtime for their egg mayo sandwiches and carrot cake. It was quick, high quality, and convenient. Behind the scenes, though, something was changing. As Pret expanded, as investors demanded growth, the gap between image and reality began to widen. Those promises of freshness, of natural ingredients, of food made with care, they were becoming increasingly difficult to keep. And rather than scale back their claims, Pret doubled down on them. They built an entire empire on a lie. And eventually, that lie would kill. The first death. July 17th, 2016. Heathrow Airport. 15-year-old Natasha Ednan Laperouse was flying to France with her family for a holiday. Before boarding, they stopped at Pret A Manger. Natasha ordered an artichoke, olive, and tapenade baguette. Her family knew she had severe allergies to sesame. They checked the packaging. No allergen information. No warning labels. Nothing. They assumed it was safe. Within minutes of taking off, Natasha began to feel ill. Her father, Nadim, watched in horror as his daughter's face swelled up. She broke out in hives. She told him she couldn't breathe. He grabbed an EpiPen and injected her, then another. Nothing worked. Her heart stopped on the plane. French medics tried to resuscitate her when they landed. For 5 hours, they fought to bring her back. But the sesame seeds baked into that baguette had triggered a catastrophic allergic reaction. At 6 p.m. that evening, Natasha was pronounced dead. But here's the thing that makes this absolutely enraging. Natasha's death was completely preventable. The baguette contained sesame seeds, but because Pret prepared its food on site, they exploited a legal loophole that exempted them from labeling allergens. The very thing they marketed as their strength, their freshly made food, became a deadly trap. For 2 years, Nadim and Tanya Ednan Laperouse fought for answers. In September 2018, an inquest revealed the full horror. Pret knew about the risks. They'd received warnings about allergen labeling. They'd even had complaints. But they chose profit over safety. The coroner's verdict was damning. Pret's labeling practices were inadequate and contributed directly to Natasha's death. The company's response? They were deeply sorry and would review their practices. Empty words for parents who would never see their daughter again. But wait, it gets worse. Just days after the inquest into Natasha's death, another story broke. In December 2017, just 18 months after Natasha died, a woman named Celia Marsh had lunch at a Pret in Bath. She ordered a supposedly dairy-free flatbread. Celia had a severe dairy allergy. She specifically ordered from their vegan range to avoid any risk. That flatbread contained dairy protein. The Super Veg Rainbow flatbread had been contaminated with milk protein from a yogurt dressing used in other products. The packaging said vegan. It said dairy-free. It lied. Celia collapsed in the shop. She died later that same day. She was 42 years old. 2 deaths. In 2016, the same year Natasha died, Pret ran advertising campaigns boasting about their good, natural food. They plastered London with ads about their commitment to fresh, wholesome ingredients. The Advertising Standards Authority received complaints. When they investigated, they found the claims were misleading. Pret's lawyers argued semantics. What does natural really mean? What counts as good? But the ASA wasn't buying it. They banned the ads and ordered Pret to be more truthful. Did Pret learn their lesson? Not even close. The company continued to push the freshly made narrative, even as their operation increasingly contradicted it. Yes, some assembly happened in shops, but ingredients came from centralized facilities. Components were mass-produced. The romantic image of a chef lovingly crafting each sandwich was marketing fantasy. Former employees began speaking out online. One blog, xpret.org, compiled their stories. Workers described foods sitting out for hours, mold on products, corners cut to meet impossible quotas. One customer even claimed they found rat droppings on their food. The reality behind those rustic wooden shelves: industrial food production with a handmade sticker slapped on top. To understand how Pret became this, you need to understand who owns it. In 2008, private equity firm Bridgepoint bought a majority stake in Pret for £345 million. Private equity firms have one goal: maximize profit, then sell for more than they paid. They're not in it for the long term. They're not invested in the brand's soul. They want returns. Under Bridgepoint's ownership, Pret underwent rapid expansion, more shops, new countries, aggressive growth targets. The company went from around 200 locations to over 400 in just a few years. Quality became secondary to scale. Then, in 2018, just months before the Natasha inquest, JAB Holding Company bought Pret for £1.5 billion. JAB is a German-Brazilian conglomerate that owns Krispy Kreme, Panera Bread, and a portfolio of coffee chains. They're the definition of corporate consolidation. Local charm, artisan values, those don't appear on balance sheets. The founders, Metcalfe and Beecham, had long since cashed out. They'd sold their stakes for hundreds of millions. They got rich selling the dream of authenticity to investors who would systematically dismantle it. This is the trap of modern food chains. They build their brand on being different, on being better than soulless corporations. Then they become exactly what they claimed to oppose. The wood paneling stays. The rhetoric about caring stays. But behind the scenes, it's just another profit machine, cutting every corner it can find. After Natasha's death sparked national outrage, the British government was forced to act. In October 2021, Natasha's Law came into effect, requiring full ingredient labeling on all pre-packed food, including those made on premises. Pret announced they would comply. They added allergen labels. They trained staff. They released statements about their commitment to safety. PR crisis managed. But did anything fundamentally change? Former employees suggest the pressure cooker environment remains. The impossible quotas, the cost-cutting, The gap between what head office promises and what actually happens in shops at 6 a.m. when you're understaffed and behind schedule. One detail haunts me. After Celia Marsh's death, tests revealed the dairy contamination in her flatbread wasn't an isolated incident. Multiple samples from that production batch contained milk protein. This wasn't a one-off mistake. This was systemic failure at the manufacturing level. Pret paid settlements to both families. The amounts were never disclosed. The Ednan Laperouse family spent their compensation setting up the Natasha Allergy Research Foundation, fighting to prevent other families from experiencing their nightmare. Meanwhile, Pret's 2019 accounts revealed they'd set aside £10 million to cover costs related to food allergy scandals. £10 million. That's how much they budgeted for killing customers and managing the fallout. Just another line item in the corporate spreadsheet. The disconnect between Pret's marketing and reality would be laughable if it weren't so dangerous. Visit their website today. You'll see the same promises. Freshly prepared, natural ingredients, handmade with love. The Instagram feed is a carousel of wholesome imagery, smiling staff, fresh vegetables, artisanal coffee art. But dig deeper. Look at the actual ingredients lists that Natasha's law now forces them to display. You'll find additives, preservatives, E-numbers, all the things they built their brand on avoiding. The sandwiches do get assembled in shops technically, but the bread? Baked in central facilities and delivered. The fillings? Prepared elsewhere, portioned and shipped. The handmade part is more like hand-assembled, like putting together flat-pack furniture and calling yourself a carpenter. This isn't unique to Pret. Most food chains operate this way. But most food chains don't build their entire identity on being different. Pret charged premium prices specifically because they claim to be above industrial food production. They positioned themselves as the antithesis of corporate fast food. The betrayal cuts deeper because the promise was so explicit. When you paid £5 for a sandwich at Pret, you weren't just buying lunch. You were buying into a story about authenticity, care and quality. You were told your money supported something better. That story was fiction, but it was very profitable fiction. Perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Pret story is the culture of silence that enabled these tragedies. Multiple reports suggest Pret knew about allergen labeling issues long before Natasha's death. They'd received complaints. Allergy charities had warned them. Regulators had raised concerns about the loophole they were exploiting. But changing would have been expensive. Adding proper labeling systems, training staff, possibly reformulating products. It was easier, cheaper to keep things as they were and hope nothing went wrong. After Natasha died, it emerged that Pret's head office had discussed allergen risks internally. They knew the exemption they were using was controversial. They knew other companies were voluntarily providing allergen information despite being legally exempt. They chose not to. This is corporate manslaughter in slow motion. Not one dramatic decision, but 1,000 small choices to prioritize cost over safety. Each choice individually defensible, but collectively, they killed a teenage girl. The staff culture compounds this. Pret is famous for its aggressive positivity. Employees are expected to be enthusiastic, passionate, friendly at all times. Mystery shoppers rate them on their smiles. Bonuses depend on maintaining the cheerful atmosphere. But former employees describe this culture as oppressive. You're not allowed to be human. You can't have a bad day. You can't question management. You smile, you work fast, you don't complain. It's the happy factory, as some call it. In this environment, raising concerns about food safety becomes difficult. The culture doesn't reward caution. It rewards speed and positivity. Pointing out problems makes you the problem. So where is Pret now, after everything? The marketing barely changed. If you didn't know about Natasha and Celia, you'd never guess from Pret's branding that they'd killed people. The wholesome aesthetic remains. You killed 2 people because you valued profit over safety. You systematically lied about your food. You exploited legal loopholes until those loopholes killed a child. But sure, tell me more about your reusable coffee cups. Pret's story isn't really about Pret. It's about the fundamental rot in modern food service. The problem is the business model itself. When you build a brand on authenticity, but your investors demand exponential growth, something has to give. You can't be local and intimate while operating 550 locations. You can't be artisanal while serving millions of customers annually. You can't be handmade at industrial scale. But admitting that would hurt profits. So instead, companies create elaborate theater. The aesthetic of authenticity without the substance. The language of care without the action. It's not enough to just sell sandwiches anymore. You have to sell a lifestyle, a value system, an identity. And when that identity is built on lies, when the gap between marketing and reality becomes too wide, people get hurt. Think about it. How many food companies do you trust? How many times have you discovered that the all-natural product contained artificial ingredients? That the handmade item came from a factory? That the fresh food was frozen and reheated? We've normalized corporate dishonesty to such a degree that we're not even surprised by it anymore. We expect to be lied to. We factor it into our purchasing decisions. We know natural doesn't really mean natural. We know fresh is relative. We've learned not to trust what companies tell us. But that cynicism has a cost. When everyone lies, when deception becomes standard practice, we lose the ability to make informed choices. We can't protect ourselves. We can't protect our kids. Natasha Ednan Laperouse checked that packaging. Her parents were vigilant. They did everything right. But they were up against a system designed to obscure, to minimize, to prioritize profit over their daughter's life. Here's what should have happened after Natasha died. Pret should have been prosecuted. Not just fined, actually prosecuted. Executives should have faced criminal charges for corporate manslaughter. The decision-makers who chose not to label allergens, who knew the risks and proceeded anyway, should have been held personally accountable. The company should have been forced to pay damages that actually hurt, not £10 million in a reserve fund. A penalty so severe, it would make every other food company in Britain look at their practices and think, we cannot afford to cut corners on safety. Every shop should have been shut down until they could prove, location by location, that their allergen controls were foolproof. Not trust us, we fixed it assurances, but verified, audited, guaranteed safety. The marketing should have been banned. No more natural. No more fresh. No more handmade artisan nonsense. Just honest descriptions of what the food is and where it comes from. But none of that happened, because in our current system, corporations are too big to fail and too profitable to meaningfully punish. The cost of killing people was just another business expense. The Ednan Laperouse family got an apology. The regulations got slightly tightened. And Pret kept selling sandwiches. You want to know the worst part? Pret could have been great. The original concept was genuinely good. Fresh food, made with care, sold at a fair price. That's not revolutionary, but it didn't need to be. It just needed to be real. If Metcalfe and Beecham had been content with steady growth, with sustainable profits, with being a solid regional chain, Pret could have been everything it claimed to be. But they wanted empire. They wanted billions. They wanted to be the next Starbucks. So they sold out. They took the private equity money. They scaled beyond what their model could sustain. They let marketing diverge from reality. And when that divergence killed people, they did just enough to avoid criminal prosecution and moved on. The brand still trades on the goodwill of its founding myth. Every time you see those rustic shelves and handwritten signs, you're seeing an artifact from when those things were real, when Pret actually was different. But that company is dead. What exists now is a corporate zombie wearing its skin. The aesthetic remains because it sells. The language remains because it works. But the soul is gone. Natasha Ednan Laparaus died for a lie. A marketing lie. A lie that told her and her family that Pret was safe, trustworthy, careful. A lie that valued shelf appeal over her life. She was 15 years old. She loved art and horses. She was flying to France for a holiday with her family. She should have grown up, gone to university, fallen in love, had kids of her own. She should have lived. Instead, she's a cautionary tale about corporate priorities, a reminder that behind every carefully crafted brand image, there are real decisions being made by real people who care more about profit margins than human lives. Walk into Pret today, and everything looks the same. The warm lighting, the wooden shelves, the cheerful staff, the promise of natural, freshly prepared food. But now, you know what it cost to build that image. Now you know whose lives were sacrificed to maintain the illusion. That's the real downfall of Pret A Manger. Not financial collapse, not losing market share, but the moral bankruptcy of valuing brand perception over human decency, of letting people die rather than admit your marketing was dishonest. They're still there on every high street, still selling the dream, still profiting from the lie. And Natasha is still dead.